Hello everybody, my name is Ellie Jackson and I'm a children's author, and I'm really excited to be here with you today for the Sustainability Festival. And I'm going to be reading one of my true stories all about a polar bear called Hunter. So without further ado, we'll start the story. And as we're going through, I'd like you to just think, where does Hunter like to live? What kind of things he likes to do? And let's find out a little bit more about what happens to him on his adventure. So hopefully you should all see that screen now, and we're ready to start the story. As the cold wind whistled across the icy wilderness, a magnificent polar bear called Hunter rolled happily in the fresh snow, cleaning his beautiful white coat and stretching his powerful body. The sky above him glowed red with the Arctic sunrise, and he looked forward to diving into the freezing waters to begin his hunt for seals. Hunter knew it often took him a long time to catch his favourite prey, and his rumbling tummy reminded him he'd better get started. His mother had taught him to hunt seals by waiting patiently on the thick sea ice, catching them quickly as they come up for air. Hunter normally had to wait several hours for a seal to appear, but today he was feeling ravenously hungry and decided to try sneaking up on a seal asleep on an ice floe. Hunter moved confidently and swiftly, his paws creeping softly over the floating ice. Slipping into the icy waters, he stealthily swam to the next floe before climbing quietly out of the sea. Many times he repeated this pattern of walking and swimming until he spotted several large seals sunning themselves on the ice just ahead. Gliding through the inky deep waters, Hunter waited for his breathing to slow before launching himself up onto the ice just in front of a sleeping seal. Completely taken by surprise, the seal instinctively dived for the safety of the sea, barely escaping Hunter's impressive jaws, which hungrily snapped shut on thin air. Defeated and needing to regain some of his strength, he lay down on the ice to rest, aware of the motion of the sea beneath him as he floated along in the rapid ocean currents. As the sky came alive with the colours of the night, he noticed that the sea was getting rougher and the ice was breaking into smaller pieces. With increasing desperation, he struggled to grip onto the ice before he was suddenly tipped off into the sea with a large splash. Giving a final look at the disappearing ice, Hunter swam steadily with the current, his strong legs paddling easily through the water as he searched for land or ice on which to rest. After many hours of swimming, he at last glimpsed waves breaking around the edge of a small iceberg. Hauling his shivering body out onto the glistening ice, he curled up and went to sleep. Days went by as the Arctic sun shone stronger and stronger, and Hunter began to feel hot and uncomfortable. His icy refuge was rapidly melting now, and he knew he didn't have much longer left before it disappeared completely. Sometimes enormous icebergs would silently drift past him, but their icy sides were too steep and high for Hunter to climb onto. Floating alongside them, he sadly realised he was far from home and lost in a world he didn't recognise. Desperately scanning the horizon for signs of land, he at last heard the harsh calls of seagulls on their cliff-top homes. Plunging once more off the edge of the ice, he frantically swam for safety, his claws grappling on the sharp rocks of the steep shore. Heaving his heavy body up the towering cliff, he soon became trapped on a tiny ledge and could go no further. Too steep for him to climb up and too far for him to jump down, Hunter miserably waited for his fate as the last flurry of winter snow fell around him. A loud noise startled Hunter as a small helicopter hovered nearby. The pilot and tourist had spotted the trapped polar bear high up on his rocky perch, and realising there was no way out for the helpless animal, they called in the local rescue services. Arriving shortly, the rescue teams worked out the best way to reach Hunter. Polar bears are incredibly aggressive and dangerous animals and can easily cause humans harm if they come too close or are threatened. The brave vet leant out of the rescue helicopter to fire a harmless tranquilizer dart at Hunter, which caught him on his shoulder. As Hunter drifted off to sleep, the Coast Guard team rapidly attempted to reach him. Using ropes and safety gear, the rescuers climbed down the treacherous cliff and tried to wrap Hunter in a strong cargo net so they could lower him to the water below. They knew the large polar bear could wake up at any moment, and the danger they were in was extreme. Suddenly, just as they were about to start lowering him down, one of the ropes broke and Hunter started to fall. Hanging upside down and held on by only one rope around his back leg, Hunter finally fell with a giant splash into the calm sea below. Floating in the water, still fast asleep and unable to swim, the waiting boats moved quickly next to him. With a huge effort, the crew lifted Hunter's magnificent head out of the water so he could breathe, before towing him towards the safety of the local beach. The place where Hunter had come ashore was near to several towns, and it was too risky to leave him close to where people live. The Coast Guard decided the quickest way to take him back to where he belonged was by helicopter. Still peacefully dreaming of his frozen home, Hunter was securely placed in the strong net before the helicopter lifted him up and headed north towards the ice. Finally, as he was lowered down and released onto the hard ice, the helicopter sped up and he started to wake up. Feeling safe at last, Hunter rolled excitedly in the sunlit snow before setting off to explore his new home. The land was showing signs of spring as the ice was melting away and rocks and new plants were pushing through the frozen ground. Further out on the thicker sea ice, Hunter settled down patiently to catch his food, soon forgetting about the melting icebergs and open ocean, the difficult swimming and rocky cliffs. He happily realised he was free to chase and hunt, to swim and explore once again. And there he is there. He looks so proud and magnificent, staring out across his Arctic home. And I'm not sure if you remember, but at the very start of the story, I said to you that everything that happened in Hunter's story was real. It really did happen to a real polar bear. And the reason it's happening is something to do with climate change. I'm not sure if you've heard those words before, but in particular, it's having a big impact on polar bears and the Arctic environment. Now, climate change is to do with temperature and weather, and it's changing, and in some places it's getting warmer. So when you think about ice cubes melting in your drink, they start to melt, don't they, when it gets warm? In the same way that ice starts to melt when it gets warm. So for Hunter, his home is made pretty much mostly of ice. And so if that starts to melt away, then we're into some problems for him. So the real problem starts with the fact that the seals that he loves to eat so much, and we don't like him hunting seals, but we need the polar bears to survive. And in order to survive, unfortunately, they do really need to eat those seals, because the seals have all the nutrition and fat in their bodies to help keep Hunter warm. So although we don't want seals to be hurt, it's really important for polar bears to be able to catch them. Luckily for seals, they're very good at getting away from polar bears, and most of the time they actually manage to escape from them. But when they do catch them, the polar bears, they really need to eat those seals. So as sad as it is part of the fact of life, unfortunately. So for Hunter, when he's trying to catch and hunt his seals, he really needs that thick sea ice on which the seals rest to be able to creep forwards to catch them. And if that thick sea ice has disappeared, like it had in the story, and remember when he did that massive long swim and he was swimming for hours and hours and hours. Now, most polar bears are very happy and comfortable in the water, but they can't stay out there for a long time. So for Hunter, he was desperately trying to find an iceberg on which to have a rest, and the iceberg that he did find, sadly, was starting to melt. So it carried him much, much further south than he wanted to go. And he ended up stuck on the cliffs. I mean, who would have thought that? So there's a real video with a real polar bear showing him trapped on the cliffs, just like in the story. And when the rescuers came to reach him, unfortunately, he slipped through the nets and landed in splash in the sea. So that was a real polar bear story that happened there. Anyway, I really hope you enjoyed the story, and I hope that's got you thinking about ways in which we can help to keep the ice frozen and to help try and stop this climate change from happening. Now, it's not going to happen very quickly. It's something we all need to do to work together. There's loads of different ideas that we can do, things like walking and cycling and riding your scooter, things like turning off lights. That's a very easy one. I know my children often forget to turn their lights off when they leave their room. So that's a really simple thing that we can all do straight away to help look after these lovely animals like Hunter. So loads of ideas in the back of the book, and you can talk to your parents and your teachers about things you can do to help tackle climate change. And it needs all of us to do it, really, even just the little tiny things like the lights, the walking to school, lots of ideas that you can look up, I'm sure. And the Sustainability Festival is going to give you some fantastic ideas and activities to do linked in with that. So thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the story, and I look forward to seeing some of the wonderful work that you might be doing to follow it up. Okay, so we'll just stop the share and I'll say goodbye. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your festival. Okay.